Today is Sunday, May 18th, and it is 45 years since Mount St. Helens erupted. Um, so, you know, we being the exciting people who have all kinds of things to do, we take just a little bit of time on our Sunday afternoon to hang out and shoot the breeze. Um, I think, yeah, looks like we have a new person joining us today. Um, this Adam, this might be an Albuquerquean.
Um,
Albuquerque. Al-
uh, are we talking about Philip here?
yeah.
I don't recognize him, but that doesn't mean
Okay.
he's not from Albuquerque.
Let's
Philip, can you
let's
tell us a little bit about
Philip,
yourself?
tell us about yourself.
I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Florida.
Not even close.
Not
Not
even
even
close.
close.
I'm east of the Mississippi.
So Philip, uh, who are you? How did you find us? What's your origin story?
Uh, well, I got my first Sinclair computer from my father-in-law back about 1981. Um, co-founded the Timex Sinclair user group of Palm Beach County
Okay.
and ran everything from ZX81 through a QL over the years. Um, of course, migrated to the IBMs and such.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, anyway, I've since retired, and I dug out all my old stuff and trying to get some of it working. And I ran across your group and decided to drop in.
Cool. What was the name of your user group again?
Uh, well, Timex Sinclair user group, uh, South Florida Timex. It's been a long time since
Oh, okay.
it's been a long time.
South Florida Timex Sinclair Users Group,
Yeah.
out of Lake Worth. Does that sound right?
Well, that is one of the towns in this county. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
Lake Worth, West Palm Beach.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
we operated a little while out of the South Florida Science Museum.
Oh wow.
They
Okay.
let us use that for a meeting spot.
That's very cool. What did you do with your Timex computers back then?
Uh, well, the ZX81 I started with was a very early 81. It was different than everybody else's. It was a UHF model,
Okay. Yep.
so it had good video. Learn to play, typing games and stuff with it. And when the 2068 came out, it went migrated to that. And of course, by then you're kind of addicted to them and got a QL, which I love the QL. Uh, that's what I'm trying to get a working one again.
Okay.
I got two of them here that appear to be dead. I'm slowly gathering the parts and bits to replace the most common items, and hopefully somebody here can point me in the right direction once I figure out what's going on with it.
Very possibly. So let me ask you, where did you get your QL? Do you recall?
Uh, got it mail order.
Because there weren't a lot of places.
No, it wasn't. It came as a kit.
Oh, really?
There
Okay.
was some minor assembly required,
Okay.
uh, but it was a good one.
Okay. Um,
Can I ask, is that a normal thing? I didn't realize the QL ever came as a kit.
Yeah, it. I'm trying to remember what I had to put together on it.
um, um, there's Paul. Paul, do you did you guys? Paul Holmgren used to sell QLs with Frank Davis as Mechanical Affinity, and you know, yeah, there was a Adam. There was a point at which you could get you know a kit, but it wasn't really a kit per se. It was just here's
Yeah,
an unassembled QL.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
that was basically it. Yeah, it was not like the ZX81 we got originally was a kit. Uh, my father-in-law actually ordered a ZX80, and that's what he expected to get, but the 81 came instead.
Yeah.
Uh, so he built that. Uh, and it was kind of nice because he was able to, put sockets on just about everything he could.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
Useful. Very
yeah,
useful.
yeah. And I expanded that thing. I got a bunch of, the add-on ROMs you could put on the back, for, well, we had a spreadsheet program,
Oh,
word
those
processor.
like the Memotech ones.
Yeah, I, the printer interface.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still got a lot of that stuff. Uh,
You were a power user.
well, we used it. We played with it. We had more money than brains back then.
Uh, I
I don't
mean,
know.
the
Did you?
kits were early in the Sinclair QL life.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you were saying. Phillip,
I
Everything we sold was ready to go.
that towards the end, people
we
who
got
ordered ZX80s right at the end of the production, right when the 81 was ready, Sinclair just sent them along an 81 and said, "We're upgrading you."
yeah, and it was nice because it was I didn't realize it was different than everybody else's until I got into the club. Everybody else had VHF modulators, and
Yeah,
they all had interference. You know,
from the local TV.
from local TV and such. And they were always complaining about it. And I go, well, what are y'all complaining about? Mine's fine. But when he took it apart, started comparing them, that UHF modulator, was labeled differently, and it worked.
And did you get a 2068 after the 81?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you sort of do the same thing in terms of like, upgrading it with doodads?
No, I didn't upgrade it much. Uh, I got a Spectrum emulator cartridge for it.
Yep.
Uh, Other than that, it still works.
That's
Uh,
cool. That's cool.
We've talked about that Spectrum emulator cartridge quite a bit, and I have one and I use it. And like, was that like one of the most common purchases for people back then? Because it seems like your software supply was so limited without one.
yeah.
Oh,
It also had an emulator. I gotta see if it's still around. That had a Portuguese ROM on it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Was it a Portuguese emulator?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I had that also. The Spectrum ROM was nice. It allowed you to run a lot more games and more programs.
no, no.
That was the main reason for that.
Right.
Other than that, I had a printer. I didn't have a full size printer interface for it. I had the Timex thermal printers.
2040, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Other than that, and we were dreaming of getting interface one for it. I had a twister card, I think they called it.
Yep.
Was looking for an interface one, and that's when the QL came along. So the development on a 2068 kind of ground to a halt. Um, I did get from the QL. I did get the Super Go card for it eventually. That was probably the best thing I ever got.
Very cool.
But it's kind of funny. I've been digging up parts for it. Well, like the Go card, of course, the battery went bye bye years ago. I found
I'm
some
actually not familiar with what that is. What is the go-kart?
the
Gold.
Go card
Oh,
is
gold.
it expanded the memory to about 4 MB
Oh,
and gave it a different processor, 6820 processor. So
Yep.
it sped the computer up immensely. It gave it a battery for a real time clock, which was that was probably the nicest thing because I did use that QL in a business setting for a while, and having to
Oh
boot
wow.
it every morning and reset the clock became
Hmm.
a hassle. So
Uh,
that was a blessing with the QLs.
It also had a floppy interface.
Oh yeah, yep.
yeah.
I had the little 5 1/4s. Still got those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And the microdrive with they have what, one or two microdrives built in.
Two microdrives that
Okay.
were fairly reliable.
Right.
Now, over the years, I've we had I can't remember much from that era, but we had a lot of members, and a lot of them at the time, we're going back to the '80s, were a lot of the members were in their '80s,
Yeah.
uh, and since they passed away, their widows and stuff have all gotten in touch with me, and what do we do with this stuff? And of course, this was back in the '90s, and it was there was no market for it, and so I ended up kind of inheriting a bunch of their stuff. So
Mhm.
that's what I've been slowly going through.
Wow.
So hopefully in the future I can give you an update on some what magazines I have available and what
Cool.
extra hardware.
Cool. Yeah. Did you guys do a newsletter with your user group?
We did,
Okay.
and I'm hoping to find copies of the old newsletters.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Uh, I so far I haven't found any.
Oh, I'm actually, David, you don't have any listed on your site at all for his?
Not for no, no. I'm looking at the user group, and so my
Yeah, we were affiliated with Timex.
okay.
We had their blessings. And,
Hmm.
uh, I'm trying to think of the guy who founded it. I can't remember his name,
Is it
but
was it Robert Pearsall?
that's it.
Pearsall? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. That's so the only reason I have this information is he must have sent it, sent information about your user group to like Sync magazine or some other publication, and I picked it up in that way. That's why I
Yeah,
have the address of Lake Worth, because that's the
that
address that he
that he
shared.
was from Lake Worth. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I have him as the sole member, and now I'm going to add you as a member to the group.
yeah. He
That's the
he
two-member
was
user group.
yeah, he
Make him
was
the president
president. I was
emeritus.
vice president. Yeah,
Let's see. There's additional detail. Cool. Very
yeah.
cool.
I can remember two other members. We had Ted Kelly, who was
Well, now I got to start taking notes.
he was a strange guy. He had a ZX81 that he had outfitted with a car battery and monitor. So if he was driving around town in his van, the urge to program came over him. He could pull over and program.
Nowadays, he could just still do it while he drives,
Well,
right in front of him like this.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy. Well,
yeah.
so
I know he did a few articles for our newsletters.
okay, good. Yeah, I hope you find it because I would love to add it to the website.
Yeah,
That would be fun. I love reading user group newsletters because there's a wholly different flavor to what a user group newsletter is versus like Sync or
yeah,
Timex Sinclair user.
yeah. And
Absolutely.
the skill level and such.
Well, and the things that that like you said, that other member who hooked it up to a car battery and made himself a portable computer, as it were. You know, uh, that would have maybe warranted a small mention in Timex Sinclair user group, but a Timex Sinclair user. But in your newsletter, there's probably more information about it,
Yeah.
than other folks would be willing to put up with.
Yeah, I remember one article he did was on. He used to do the articles on basic programming. I know he did one on that about
Mhm.
I think moving a character across the screen or animating a character.
Wow.
Hopefully, I'll run across it.
Wow. Wow. I'm impressed that you're able to, recall that after,
Yeah, about
a mere 40
45
years. That's awesome. Well, Phil, I'm glad you found us. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it just I was just
Yeah.
digging around looking for
Cool.
QL stuff online and ran across your little group.
Cool.
How many people are in your group?
Well, we've got, let's see, am I going to double count Ryan? Yes, we've got 17 folks here tonight, plus Ryan's Raspberry Pi. Um, but we have an email list that you should sign up for. It's on groups.io, and I'll drop the link in the chat in a minute. But I think there's 200-ish people on the groups.io list.
Hmm,
Um, but yeah,
it's,
there's
it's
for the
amazing.
yeah, for the Zoom meetings, this is
About 20 people usually show up for these somewhere.
yep. I'm
Yep.
looking and I'm seeing the hardcore folks in the participants list today, not tonight.
Yeah, I watched a couple of your meetings on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Did you fall asleep? Is that what you did before you went to bed? Uh,
I noticed you just concentrate on the 2068. I take it.
Well, a lot of folks have that, but we do as much as people want to do it. Talk about the 1000 and the 81 and the QL. Um, so Tim Swenson, who's here, is big QL person. He went from CX81 to QL. He skipped right over he briefly had a 2068, but essentially he skipped right over it and went to the QL. And he is really, really knowledgeable about it. He's put together a bunch of resources over the years about the QL. And Tim currently publishes uh, uh, a zine called ZX Zine, and it's about once a yearish. And it includes articles that he writes and other folks write. Um, a lot of what Tim has been working on recently has been ZX81 stuff.
Hmm.
But we actually got him to branch out into the 2068 a little bit.
Well, that's
Well,
good.
also remember, I also have the SMS Qzine.
That's
So I have
right.
two zines, one for ZX81 and in 2068, and one for the QL.
Yeah. Tim's very productive. He's got a lot going on.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for a Minerva ROM to show up,
Oh,
which
Are you getting it from Sell My Retro?
I'm getting it. I got it off of eBay. It's coming from Germany.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Hmm.
Because there's a website called Sell My Retro run by a former a QLer who does everything, but he sells a lot of QL stuff. There's also the Sinclair QL Forum, which is a website dedicated to the QL, and they also have an IRC chat where we get online and chat about things. And a lot of them are into hardware and repairing, which I'm not into, but there is a hardware section for the QL forum where if you have problems, you chat there and they'll let you know.
yeah.
uh, Tim, what kind of IRC client? Because I'm frankly I've not used
Actually,
IRC.
so I'm using the built-in one, but there is a QL IRC. You can actually run IRC on a QL.
Oh, okay.
It requires only emulators can do it because it requires low-level TCP/IP to the emulator. But I wrote the framework of that, and then Dilwyn Jones in the Wales really expanded to be quite capable.
Oh, that's cool. Hey,
Um, I think I'm using Quassel, I think is the IRC chat. And they also have a bot that goes between Discord and the IRC, and most people are over on the Discord side. And there's a few of us that are all still on the IRC side.
Okay. Okay.
In fact, I'm still on my desktop. I'm logged into it. I'm always logged into it.
Because you need to be connected. That's how it goes. Yeah.
I think I reboot my desktop like once a month. So
Oh my gosh.
I just leave it up, leave it running, and leave the chat online.
Hmm. Hmm. And you have reminded me that one of our members set up a Discord chat thing for it says Timex Sinclair 2068 group. I think because it's was inspired by the email list, but really it's anything, because there's a specific channel for the 81, 1000, 1500, and eBay fines, that sort of thing. And I don't plug it enough, so I'm plugging it now.
Discord, you need a Discord account, right?
Discord, you need just yeah. It's not a
For the IRC chat for the IRC, you do not need an account.
yeah. IRC was just you that was a
Yep,
distributed
give me a nickname, you're good. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually only joined the Discord of the 2068 group yesterday when I was going to the one for the Albuquerque one. So,
So, Adam,
yeah.
I was going to call on Andrew, but he had to leave.
Yep.
It was he an Albuquerque person?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. He was the one who he had an Atari display at the December show, I
Oh,
think. Yeah.
all
But
right.
hey, he likes all computers, as everyone there does, They have this limit of I think the latest computer you can have is like 19 is two anything above 2000. I can't remember. They have strict rules, which something like that. But most of them, like I've said, are into DOS and Mac, or yeah, DOS or Macs, things like that. But there's also people who are into similar computers like us, and like the TIs and Timexes, even that kind of stuff. They have some of them in their collections.
Interesting. I'm copying an invite to the Discord thing to drop in the chat for folks, because that's the way Discord works. Oh, I don't know how long. Oh, it says it's going to expire. That's fine. It's going to expire in 7 days. So join Discord in the next 7 days, or this offer will expire.
Yeah, I'll have to get on that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like it's very active. I think the last post there was
A little while ago.
yeah, quite months back.
Yep. Hey, Tom.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
You have been prolific.
Yeah, sorry about that.
What do you mean sorry? It's fucking hilarious. I'm kicking myself that I can't get the the audio pass through to work to get these songs to play. But for the benefit of people who are not on the email list, tell us what you've been up to.
What, with the music?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah, we'll
just
start with the music.
or the 2068.
Let's start with the music.
So I just had an account with Suno AI music generator. So I just kind of, after joining this group here, kind of took all the thoughts and ideas from what the Timex Sinclair was about,
Mm-hmm.
generated lyrics on ChatGPT. I asked it to refine it. You ask it to create choruses, pre-chorus, verses.
Okay.
It generates it. Just copy over the text,
Yeah.
put it in Suno, and then you can define what kind of music you want. Disco, right? I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. And then it just generates the music.
But I played with Suno for 10 minutes a month or so ago.
I'm sorry.
And it's interesting. I got a little frustrated with it because I was trying to get it to do something, and it kept giving me these, sort of heavy metal male lyrics. But Suno can also write lyrics for you.
You could do it right there in the create area,
Yeah,
right? You just tell it what ideas you want and it'll generate lyrics.
yeah,
But I use Chat GPT just because it's more in depth,
yeah. Okay,
right?
okay.
And it's a little bit more intuitive than what
Hmm.
I find that's available on Suno.
That's hilarious. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna insert one of your songs. I'm gonna use probably the instrumental part of the little synth pop thing at the very
Yep.
beginning, just as like bumper, and then I'll insert the song probably at the end. But I also want to just upload them independently to YouTube so people can enjoy them in all their glory, all by themselves.
Yeah, and if anybody, you can use them as you wish because I don't really care. I mean, I have some more in-depth work on my account,
Okay,
right? That, but yeah, any of these Timex songs, use them.
cool, cool.
Absolutely.
So I noticed that your parrot has ZX81 coloration.
Oh, yeah, he's an African gray.
Uh-huh.
He's
Okay.
a little hormonal right now, but yeah,
Very cute. He's got the gray, he's got the red, he's got the
gray
white.
red. Yep.
Very nice. So it sounded like you have also been doing something with your 2068?
So when I first joined and you interviewed me, I had said I had created a cash register program,
Yeah.
right? So that program was it was actually on one of those wafer disks you use for the A&J microdrive.
Okay.
Well, that's long gone because I sold that unit 20 years ago. Well, so now I have to rewrite it from scratch, but I'm planning it all out on a notebook, and I had asked some questions about variables and what's the best way to handle that, whether it be, full words, just the letter, just,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm piecing that together, and I got that subsection done on the program so that all of the taxes, right? You, I expanded it to do the sales tax. If you're a city, you might have a city sales tax. So all those variables are programmed, but I got to turn it back on and start coding the actual portion where it starts printing on the screen, you type in and all that stuff. So,
So do you do you have what do you use for storage on your 2068?
oh, I used that
The
thing that I
Pico?
got. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. So you can make your life a little easier by um you can type your basic code into a text editor, and then you can use this tool called ZMakeBase, which will turn it into a tap file that you can put on the SD card and bring over to 2068. I mean,
Oh, so I could do it while I'm sitting here in the meetings.
pretty much, yeah, yeah. And you know what else you could do is you could get ChatGPT to write the program for you.
Oh, yeah, I have discovered that ChatGPT can write basic programming. It's kind of cool.
It is kind of it is, but then its knowledge of Sinclair Basic is a little limited.
Yeah, I've given that a try, and it's not. I've not had much luck with it before, but
Yeah, you really have to hit it upside the head.
that's how I am. You have to hit me like that too.
Well, cool. Yeah, so Tom, check or ask on the email list, because the process with CMake Base is not difficult, but it's command line.
Okay.
And usually what you run into is some sort of oddball. I'm trying to think, what's the error that I sometimes run into. I'm drawing a blank on it, but it's pretty reasonable. It can figure out the difference between Sinclair Basic and Timex Sinclair Basic, um, and really, the difference is like 5 commands. I don't know if you're going to be using the stick command, maybe to control the cash register drawer or something.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
But yeah, it's fantastic because you can write your code, compile it to a tap, try it out in like Fuse or Zsorax, one of the the emulators, and then once it does actually work the way you want it to, you can run it on the real hardware. Um, and I know we have keywords, but there is sort of a speed limit to typing on the 2068 that you can exceed on your own computer.
Oh no, I'm pretty quick with that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's just a matter of finding the time and actually doing it.
What do you mean finding the time? Isn't your life dedicated?
No, no.
All right. Cool. Cool. Well, Tom, I find the songs immensely amusing, and I would not recommend taking the computer away from you.
Oh, okay, good. I'd be very unhappy.
And I will hold you beer anytime if you want to make another song. I
Yeah,
tell
that's
you, I
right.
told you that in the group. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, it's water, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, so someone, how do you say that word? Is it Zlog,
Oh, yeah,
Zilog, or
Zilog.
Zaylog?
Xylog.
Zilog.
Dialogue.
So it's the long I.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
I
a,
can change that.
well, and Adam, are you the one that did the deep dive to find out what the meaning was, or was it you, Tom? That
It was me.
okay.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was
I
you.
wouldn't call it a deep dive. It said it in the second paragraph of the Wikipedia page for Zilog.
This is
Like
deep
it
enough
was.
for me. Well, I never knew that. I
Yeah.
never, and I never even really thought about where did the name come
Yeah.
from. You know,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. Um, well, Adam, since you are on screen,
Oh, am I? Okay.
you're on screen for me. Uh,
Okay.
so therefore you're on screen. Um, do you want to do the bookie nookie?
Oh, the book nook.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do that today. I've had this idea to do a book nook for one of the three. I don't have a QL book, but for either the ZX81. Are these clear, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, the ZX81, the Timex 1000, or the 2068 computer. And I figured we'd just choose one today, and I figured everyone has some experience with them and has used them to some degree who is here and either read them from cover to cover or just read the magazines. And I think I've looked at the Timex Sinclair, not the Timex Sinclair, the Spectrum magazine or user manual, and it's pretty good. But I think of this one is I really like it. It's got the I don't know. I'm curious what other people think of it. I don't know the last time anyone's even looked at it. How many of you bought your 2068 new so you actually got this? Did you get them used at the time? I don't know. So I'm like, which one do you guys want to cover?
Let's
Or do
do
we
the
want to cover all
2068
three?
one.
The 2068 one? Let's do it.
Yeah, because
Okay.
Tom says he reads it all the time.
Oh, okay. There you are.
May I?
Yeah, let's
Absolutely.
go.
Let me.
In the 2068 manual, if you devoured it multiple times, I found a couple of system variables that allowed me to enable a trick for a program basic only. It was a game, and it was almost all the memory available in the 2068 because they had a lot of different user-defined graphics, and they would swap them in and out, and they were all done in data statements to transfer the code.
Right.
I figured out a way to use the number slug to actually hold that data. So I started compressing by using the system next line variable and then wrote a very short routine in BASIC that would read the data statement that was in the quote next line
Mhm.
and load all of that data that was in the number slugs into the UDG file segment.
Weird.
And then I wrote a very short routine so I could poke the data into the number slugs of a REM statement. So the program was littered with REM statements with the 0, 0, 0, but
And that would
contained
reserve
5
memory?
bytes of
Is that why?
numbers values for each 0, comma.
Oh, right. Okay. So, Paul, do you remember enough about your technique to, write it down and share with other folks?
I may even have it on paper.
Oh, you should dig that up and post it to the list. And of course, I can't imagine that Tim would be interested in such a thing for the ZXZ.
Well, I would imagine that it might be applicable to the 1000 basic, but I haven't checked that. Because I
Well,
believe the 1000 stored the numbers the same way.
yes, it did. Yes.
If
And
it has a next line system variable, it's doable in the 1000.
Interesting.
Because it was just a read and poke process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the actual basic for doing the read and poke was like 200 or 300 bytes.
Yeah. Well, and now that you mention it, Paul, um, I'm thinking that if you figured out if you programmed all of your 21 UDGs in the traditional space up in high memory, and then wrote a little routine to um, copy that data to a REM statement um, as bytes, right? So it would look like it could potentially look like um, a machine language RAM line on the 1000. But if you copied that to a bunch of different lines, you could use a machine language program and the elder um, command to instantaneously almost move that block of bytes from the program to the UDG space as you needed it. You know what I'm
I understand.
saying?
I think isn't the system variable? Does it say where the UDGs are, or does it say how many bytes to reserve?
It's
Got
bytes. Yeah.
okay.
That I don't remember now.
Yeah.
Just
But I think it was a defined area.
UDG is 168 bytes.
Oh, there's a system variable UDG address of first user defined graphic. So you could just poke that
You
to the
could just
beginning of
move
the
the
block.
the byte.
Yeah, just move the pointer like the
Oh.
font pointer.
Even easier. Even easier. Okay.
So yeah, you could just reserve some space below the regular ones and just kind of move it. And if you just move it, whatever they they're 168 bytes. But if you just put them 256 bytes apart, you just have to poke one byte of the address different. I think.
Well, I
Smooth it
chose
around.
that particular method to avoid all the gobbledygook when you listed it out.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And if somebody tried to edit that line, they destroyed the contents.
Well,
Which means you could do machine code that way and it would be non-editable.
That's true. Yeah. So to answer your question, Adam, for me, I read it cover to cover, didn't quite grasp.
And you already had the 1000, right?
I'd already had the 1000.
Yeah.
And I already had problems understanding the chapter about machine language programming with the 1000. And on the 2068 manual, it was not any clearer for me. But the thing that is so bizarre, the thing that stuck out for me, the thing that I remembered the most was that illustration of the woman with the cat.
No, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
See, exactly. It's like, I'm like reading along and I was like, what is this? why? What does this woman and a cat have to do with? And I guess this is your average person or something. I don't know. That's that struck me as bizarre.
Well, since you were coming from the 1000, you were coming to a computer that had sound. So you were messing around with the beep and the sound command, I'm guessing. Is that right?
Um, actually, I was more interested in the commands that it turns out didn't work. I
Well,
was
first I want to just show this picture is actually of a bird, but we could pretend it's a parrot for Thomas. Okay, I don't know if you can see. Can you see that's a lady with a bird? No. No.
No,
Anyway,
oh, that was a bird. Oh, for
yes.
some reason I
sure.
remembered it's a cat.
Well, that is a bird. I think there's
Okay,
another one with a cat.
okay,
Yeah, I'll keep looking. Don't worry.
all right, all right. So, my first, the first time I got to play with 2068, I wanted to write a little database on it, and I wanted to write it in the same way that I had done it with like the Trash 80, using the open commands to save my data to a standalone file. And little did I know that those commands did not work. So I read the manual. I was like, why, and then of course the other thing I tried was the 64 column mode, which is mentioned somewhere in the
Mhm.
manual, and you do the out command, and all you get is your first screen spaced out and the second screen in the intervals. And I was like, there must be more to this 64 column thing than meets the eye.
Yeah. Yeah. How long after that did it take for someone to like when did the OS 64 come out?
OS
Not that
6.
most people had access to it, I guess, but
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I have an exact date on that. Let me look.
oh, here's the one. She's got a cat. Maybe it's a mink coat around her neck. I don't know if you can see that one. It's I don't know. I don't. It's pretty silly pictures in here, but it makes it for me. I didn't like I said I didn't have this, but the Commodore 64 manual that I had at the time wasn't nearly this approachable. Um, and I like this manual for that reason. It makes it a little more fun.
Yeah, so OS 64 came out in 85. But yeah, the comparison you make is accurate. I had the 64, and the manual was very dry,
Hmm.
to say the least. Yeah,
No,
there's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
that's
just
charm.
I have like 3 copies of the 2068 manual, and I just realized that I brought up my nicest copy, which I is not what came with one of my boxes, and a little printout came with it, and on the back are all of these X numbers,
Hmm.
like just fell out. It's a little printout from the 2040 printer. So well, there you go.
You should type
Someone's
that in.
program. Maybe it's someone in this group. Did anyone write this? Anyone here write this?
now, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there another manual after that one called the Intermediate Manual? I believe.
So
Oh,
there were two. One was written by Fred Blackman, and that was the beginner intermediate, and they were both published by
Sam's, I think.
Sam's, yeah, something like that. And then there was the intermediate advanced by Jeff Mazer, uh, and both of those were in the pipeline to be published when Timex, kind of went out, and um, the folks with the in the user groups, sort of put together a letter writing campaign, um, and got Sam's to actually finish, go through with publishing them.
Oh, did not know it worked that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I got a copy of that manual.
yeah. I think Stuart Neufeld from Zebra Systems. I think he still has some of both. So if you Google Zebra Systems, you'll probably come across his webpage, and I think he still has both of those available.
And I noticed that Michael held up the reference card.
Yeah,
Uh,
Mike.
yeah, that's a good one.
Let me find you, Mike.
Yeah, I like that one. That's great. It's only a few pages and it has everything.
Oh, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, it compressed, what, 200 and some odd pages into 16 panels or something.
Yeah. pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
It's hard to use as a PDF though, but it is what it is.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um,
So did people type in these programs? I mean, when I was playing around with this several years ago, I did type in some of the stuff, and I even posted it to the group. Some of my quote, not experiments, but some of the like just the output of like the color programs, and I think I recorded a video where of a sound program running. Um, but it's a, and it also shows you how to use the keyboard because when I first took a look at the 2068 keyboard, I was like. Uh, and it's not bad. People always pick on it, but you just have to use it a little bit and then it's fine. So,
well, you know, I came from the 1000, and actually, before I even owned a 1000, I would go into the local stereo shop, and they had a 1000 set up, and I would try to play with it. And I remember one day finally grasping how to do a for loop on the 1000, because two is a keyword as well, and that was the thing that got me hung up. Like, four, x equals whatever, and then I would try to enter to, and it wouldn't work.
oh,
Right. But then when I got my 1000, I spent hours and hours. I did with the 1000, I definitely did type in a bunch of those programs. But by the time I got to the 2068, I already knew how to, how to do the multiple cursors, how to get to the different cursors in order to get to the keywords that I wanted. So it was more, I was not much of a game player. Again, my first thought was, oh, I'm going to write a database.
that surprises me because I thought you were into music back then too or something, but
Oh
I
yeah,
guess,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But I don't know. I didn't quite grasp how I would make music uh, with the chip that was in the 2068.
right.
I
Yeah.
hadn't been exposed to sequencers yet, and so the whole concept of, well, how do you, put together a series of notes and pipe them through, you know, that part I didn't grasp yet.
And the databases you were using didn't have music, so you didn't know that you had a sound chip inside your
You don't right.
2068.
You don't need music in a database. You need to be able to search the records. You need to be able to, print them out, all those things.
Well, I see also that Johnny Red here has showed up. Did you ended up coming from some kind of group gathering, right? Is that correct?
Yeah,
Would you tell us about it?
what can I tell? It was more than 100 people from the factory. It was amazing, of course.
The Timex factory, of course.
This is the
Yeah, the Portuguese factory.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I already knew some people, not all. It's impossible to talk with everyone.
yeah.
You have to talk to 100, more than 100 people and remember all their names. So I talked to some, not all. It was fun.
Were these all? Was everybody their employees, or was like employees and their families?
Um, there were 150 employees
Oh my gosh!
and like 40 outsiders,
Wow.
like spouses and us from the museum.
I mean,
It's amazing for a company that started more than 50 years ago and still gather like 100 people.
right. That's exactly what I was going to get to. Was 150 sounds like a pretty significant
And
portion of the folks who worked there.
it almost looked like a wedding with all of those people. And some saw other people that didn't see for like 40 years or more.
Oh my!
It
Oh
was
my!
very nice to see.
A big class reunion.
Yeah, kind of, but from a factory. In the end, I went to the factory again to deliver something that we are exchanging with the museum is exchanging with a company that's currently occupying the building,
Mm-hmm.
and got a chance to get inside again.
Oh wow!
It was nice. It is nice to see the building again.
That's really cool. That is really
And,
cool.
and the owner of the building is Timex, actually.
No, there's nothing that mentioned Timex anymore.
Ah, okay.
It's the front gate has the name of the company that rents the place because it's a company that rents the building, and the front door of the building has the name of the company that's actually there.
It's actually there. Yeah. Okay. When did that um, facility shut down? Do you know?
Uh, how can I say this? The facility itself, it was never abandoned. Like the Timex got out of the building and someone else went right next,
Right after.
occupying it.
Okay.
So it was never kind of abandoned. Timex of Portugal have had a lot of phases in the building. Uh, what we see now, so only yesterday I learned a bit more because the part that Timex occupied in the 80s was called the first phase. It's the first part of the building that was built, like in 1970, the first phase was built.
Okay.
Later, it was built the second phase. So the building got bigger to gather more people working there. It was planned a third phase, so it was going to be more larger yet. But because of the revolution, it never went through
Okay.
because the production stopped and everyone went home, and it basically stopped, right? Um, so the 80s came, they split the first phase from the second phase. The second phase was rented to someone else.
Hmm.
The first phase was kept on Timex by Timex. Timex kept using the building. Um, Early 80s. And I have a paper with that, but now I'm not sure exactly the dates. But late 80s, early 90s, because the building has two floors. You by pictures you almost can't see it, but you have the first floor and you have the lower floor.
Okay.
Um, Timex in the 80s occupied the two floors, and how I was saying, late 80s, early 90s, Timex went to the to the lower floor and left the top floor, the first floor, as they call the first floor. So the first floor was rented again, and they kept because all production had really stopped, all R&D stopped, and they only focused on clocks, pulse clocks, watches.
Watches. Yeah.
Um, and in the late 90s, they completely exited the building, so they sold it and went to a smaller house, a bit far, not very far from where they were,
Okay.
and kept there until 2014, and that's when the company terminated and shut down.
Wow. Wow. I never even thought about that. That's interesting. So they Timex roughly 1970-ish to 2014-ish.
Yeah,
Um, with a little bit of upheaval during the revolution. Um,
and most amazingly, the after the revolution, the production stopped, and almost all people went to their homes, but they keep receiving their salary. The company keep paying the people
Yeah.
They were not fired. They only start firing people like I think 3 years later, like 77, 66, 76, 77 is when they start firing people, and the number of people go from like 4,000 to 100 people.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So that really gives a scale for the number of folks who showed up.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
like they say they have like more than 40 buses taking people everywhere to work on the factory.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow.
So you see the amount of people that really work there.
Yeah. Wow.
And in
That's
this meeting, we had people from the start of the factory, 1970, uh, people that entered later after the revolution, people that exited after the revolution and returned again because they knew who really wanted to work
hmm.
and called that people again.
Wow.
And they all said that Timex was really, really good. Most of them don't understand why the revolution destroyed the factory.
That's cool. That's really fascinating. Thanks.
It had like how can I say the conditions of working was very, very good. They are the whole building had air conditioning. Not I don't know if any factory by the time had air conditioning in all the building. It was not so just the offices, was everything in the building had air conditioning.
Huh.
They
Well,
had medical, they had uh, food because of the canteen. They had everything, and they still were not happy and destroyed the factory.
oh, wow. That's really crazy.
Yeah, completely. They
Oh,
all
well,
say
what do
amazing that the time they spent on the factory was the best. There was before Timex, Timex, and after Timex, and Timex is the biggest point they always tell. Yeah, and then I went to work on that place, and then the other, but Timex was the place.
Adam, you were gonna
Oh
ask?
yeah, I was going to ask, what do they think of people's fascination with knowing the history?
I this in the beginning, this is coming for some years now. The fifth meeting of Timex was in Cantanhede. When they realized we are after something from them. At first, they thought it was like weird, like why they want to know this. But now they understand. And again, João went to Cantanhede with the car full of stuff because they brought more stuff to the museum. Even Hugo Pinto have things on his car to take to the museum because João Carlos was already full of stuff. Eh, it's amazing how they still keep having stuff to give us. Even things not only from the computers, also from the watches. So you can see it's not museum someday maybe about more about Timex than Spectrum because we're already going to watches and the equipment they use to make the watches. It's becoming like crazy thing.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, thank you, Johnny, for telling us that.
Oh, no
Well, I have one
problem.
other. Is there going to be is any of this going to be posted anywhere, like in English, where I can read about it, or is that like that's all I'll get to know?
Uh, I know that João asked to film. Diogo Reis was filming. That's the person who usually films stuff for the museum. It's probably going to YouTube sometime. Not sure when. It's up to him. He does the about his time. Um, I'm sure something will be posted.
Well, yeah, let us know in the group. This way, I'd like to check it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds really fascinating. Um,
Thank you for sharing the history. In America, we never hear about that.
right.
It's
Yeah.
funny.
People doesn't expect. Not sure. This probably won't see much. Um, this is the factory building. Can you see it?
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
the factory building. It's a bit of focus, but mm. um, I was there today again. I feel like most people say that it's unfortunate. Not sure if you can see the company name. It's in here. This is the entry.
Mm.
This is the company name that's there now. Um, I feel happy to enter there. I really like the building.
Hmm.
It's it's like entering in a 80s zone. Not sure if you understand.
Well, you seem kind of giddy, so like you're
This
coming
is
down. Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of people there.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Lots of people, more people, mostly all ex-employees. Like I said, it was 150 people. The garden was full of people.
Who organized the gathering?
The gathering was Rosalina Alves.
Okay.
She was one of the secretaries and is usually the person who is able to gather all these people. Not sure if it was the museum, if she could do this.
Okay.
Lots of people.
And for folks who don't know, Rosalina, with who was her boss? Do you remember?
Um, she was the secretary of Álvaro Oliveira. Álvaro Oliveira was one of the consultants of Timex.
Okay.
He
Okay.
didn't work, he was not in the payroll like an employee from Timex. He was a consultant, so he had a company outside Timex. He did Timex. If you search Alpha Micro,
Micro, yeah.
you
And
it was his company.
he had a whole bunch of documentation, right?
Yeah, it's what João always says. He has 3,000 PDFs, whatever,
Yeah.
from Álvaro Oliveira because he kept lots of papers. It was a
Right.
garage full of papers.
Right. Right.
Um, Yesterday I went to visit the farm that is not a farm anymore. It's going to be I'm not sure how it says it. It's going to be built buildings for people live there.
Okay.
Uh,
And the significance of the farm is what's the relation?
it's more about Rosalina because the story of Rosalina in the factory is um, overwhelming. It's overwhelming because she was from Alentejo. She was not from the area,
Mm-hmm.
and her father decided to move to Almada, to Costa da Caparica, Lazarim, the area what is called.
Okay.
And the factory didn't exist by then. The factory only appeared after. And she before she went to work with Timex, she already kind of worked with Timex because she was in the farm, and this is Rosalina.
And the farm was was her father's farm, right?
Her father was the manager of the
The
farm.
manager.
He was
Okay.
not the owner.
Okay.
She told me that the farm was from a German when she arrived there. Then it was sold to another German, and uh, like 5 years later, as she tells in the documentary,
Hmm.
a Scottish and an American arrived at their door and tell them the factory is going to be built.
On the portion of the farmland.
Saying, yes.
Right. Okay.
And there was the relation between the administrators of the factory. Uh, it's there, but it's never told because it's not a factory story. It's outside the factory. There is that relation between the family of the administrators. Okay, it's the Mr. Diol
Hmm.
uh, with their kids. The stories she tells about because of her relation and the relation with the factory with the farm. Um, it's a lot of stories really. It's kind of it gives a book. You can make a book with her story.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we went there because she wanted to show us. We see the place where the house where the drive the the other administrator, it was Drive, Mr. Drive, where it was. It's no longer there. The house of the all, it's still there, but it's in complete ruins,
Hmm.
and it's condemned because it's going to be demolished.
Okay.
The house is still there. A fire, it's a bit burned. Someone probably because it's a house in ruins, abandoned.
Right.
Someone make a fire and it spread over the house. So we saw the what remains and her story. It was amazing.
Wow. Wow. Big day.
Big weekend.
Big weekend. Yes.
Yeah, because I went there yesterday, returned home, went there again.
Oh, oh my gosh. Cool.
It was amazing.
That's awesome.
It was fun. A bit tired, but fun.
Yeah.
Yet again, more people to bringing stuff that I have to see again, stuff that I have to analyze.
Oh no, more
You
stuff.
don't
Yeah. The
imagine more
horror. The
stuff.
horror.
I was thinking because João gave me a lot of schematics for me to scan. I scanned them all, and oh, I'm free from scanning big sheets of paper. Oh wait, more. I
Yeah, I
don't
got some
want
paper you can
more.
scan.
Oh
I get the
no, more
stuff.
papers to scan. So
Uh,
I have more schematics to scan.
cool. Cool. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you.
A
Hey,
pleasure. If anyone has any question,
yeah. Mowgli, you came off mic. You have a question?
No, I
Okay.
don't. Not on this topic.
Okay.
My, I mean, it is fun to go see the old places, even though sadly, things no longer say Timex on them. Um, and I,
uh, well, uh, for me, it's always going to be time. Even the second phase that is rented to different companies, they made it. They call it Timex Park.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it's always
ah,
be Timex.
Okay.
okay,
It's always going to be
That's
Timex
very
because
nice.
Timex
That's very
Park,
nice.
yeah. And if people say to ex-employees, "Oh, let's go to the factory." Ah, we are going to Timex. Yeah, let's go.
That's
They
better than
keep
Jurassic
calling it
Park.
Timex. It no longer says Timex nor TMX Portugal, but it's always going to be Timex, no matter what company is there.
Yeah. What were you
For
gonna say,
me,
Mowgli?
it's like taking this T-shirt. I made this T-shirt with the
With the building.
Yeah.
yeah. It's going always to be Timex, no matter, and I always will be like to see the building again. I never work there, but it's a joy going there again.
So one thing that, at least in the science fiction realm, they've been doing lately have been trying to set up interviews with people who were significant in the science fiction realm before they pass away to talk about the old days and things like that. Have you looked at essentially like interviewing some of the employees, talking to them on tape or on recording that you could then, put up on a website so that people could listen to interviews about what it was like to work at the factory and or to be at the factory even.
For that, there is already the documentary.
Okay, well, there was the documentary, but
Yeah,
that's like an hour and a half or 2 hours, right?
1 hour, 1 hour.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
already
so
people from the watch era, like 70s before the revolution and after the revolution, and but mostly in the
Mhm.
computer era, like 81 to 87.
But I
mhm.
think I think Mowgli has a good point about interviewing.
Yeah, we are taking notes. We are
Okay.
preparing something about that. It's not uh, things that people tell us are not going to be forgotten.
Okay. Good. Good. All right. Sounds like you have a plan. Cool.
Yeah, we have a plan.
I mean, you guys do a lot. You have, yeah, you do a lot. Let's put it that way.
It looks like we outside maybe we don't show much, but we have so much thing to do.
You have so much to do. Exactly. That's
Yeah,
very,
little
yeah.
time.
Yep. Yeah. More time, more
Yeah,
to
what are
do
you
than,
on this meeting for? You should be scanning. Go get
yeah.
scanning.
Yeah. And interviewing.
Oh, there's time for that. The papers are not going to destroy by themselves. They're not like Mission Impossible. If you read after you read this document, it's going to be destroyed. And
um,
no, that's not going to happen.
Adam, we strayed really far from the book nook.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Okay.
If anyone else has any topics they want to talk about this user manual, let us know.
Yeah.
Anybody?
And
I I made all programs of that thing.
you typed them all in?
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, that's how I
So,
learned basic
so was the manual available in Spanish then? Like
Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Portuguese?
Yeah.
Okay.
Portuguese,
Yeah. They
both
translated it.
the 2068 and the 2048.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, something when I was young, I didn't understand how BASIC would work in another language because I was like, well, I guess all the basics are different in, another whatever language because their keywords would have to be, something different. But of course,
Uh,
that's not the case.
that's not the case. The
Yeah,
the the base the ZSH Basic is very similar to Microsoft Basic. Uh, of course, there are some functions you don't have because it's limited
Yeah.
with the quantity of keys you have.
right.
Um, but I easily jumped from the Timex to a PC with Basic.
Hmm.
Yeah, coming
Some
back to that Chat GPT statement I said earlier was that's the problem when I've tried doing stuff with any other basic. It wants to assume you have Microsoft Basic. It just is going to want to tell you to use Microsoft Basic Strings, and it just loves that.
When I first starting ChatGPT, I asked something like, how do you declare a variable in this is basic? And he kept saying me like, that's normal basic. No, it's not like that. It's like this. You have to type this command. And I
Yeah,
asked
yeah.
again, again, the Microsoft Basic. Okay.
Yeah.
You kept that way.
Mowgli.
But yeah, I mostly learned programming by that manual. When I got my computer, I didn't know how to program. Only later, on school, I learned Pascal. It
Oof.
was quite different, but uh, the structure is there.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
only a kind of organizing things, but you have the basic from basic how to make a program. So it was easy. For me, it was like a start.
Well, thank you. I
Oh,
think we
no
can move
problem.
on from this topic. I'm done with it. I mean,
Okay.
maybe we can cover one of the other
Yeah, no
books.
one more who used it.
It doesn't seem like it. No one wants to talk about it, at least. They're like,
Well,
Oh,
oh, there
Mowgli.
you go.
all of you only used
No, no. Mo
load
So
to
so
load a program.
I didn't actually use this book all
Okay.
that much. I had already programmed on the Timex Sinclair 1000. I had played with stuff there. And so I was reasonably familiar with the basics, and beyond the like, okay, what's new in the 2068, I would
Uh,
refer to this book occasionally and do stuff with it. Um, More useful to me was this,
Yeah.
which, was kind of a like, okay, I need to look this up real quick kind of thing, rather than going through the book. But
That's
the
the
most
one that
useful,
Michael was showing a second ago.
yeah, the most useful
it's
one for
interference.
me was this one,
Uh,
which
yeah,
uh, I played around with quite a bit, and especially when I started doing machine code stuff, some of the reference stuff in this book were useful as well. So I do have, completely off the topic of manuals, a small and wacky little story. Uh, so recently I was in Chicago and I got a text from a friend of mine who also has keys to my warehouse here. And he said, "Hey, I found this thing on the side of the road in a trash pile. I think you're going to like it." And I was like, "What is it?" And he said, "Oh, it's a desk." And I said, "A desk? I don't have room for furniture and blah, blah, blah." He says, "Trust me, you're going to like this one." I'm like, "Okay, fine." So I get back from Chicago. I walk into the warehouse, and there's this very small, like nondescript wooden desk that was homemade by somebody, sort of sitting there with a bunch of pieces kind of helter-skelter on top. And the drawer is slightly ajar. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to go unpack the van first. So I go unpack the van, come back in, and I'm like, yeah, all right, it's a cute desk, but I already told him, like, I don't need desks. So I'm like, all right, fine. I might as well look at it. So I look at it carefully, and the drawer is ajar. And as I get close to the drawer, I realize the first thing that I'm looking at in the drawer is a printout from a 2040 thermal printer.
Oh my.
So I open the drawer, and the drawer is basically full of rolled printouts uh, with rubber bands around them from a Timex Sinclair 2040 printer. And it turns out a couple of cartridges, including Flight Simulator for the 2068 on cartridge, new in the box.
Oh my God.
Um, so uh, we pieced together that somebody in the 1980s not only loved their Timex Sinclair so much that their 2068 so much, so they built this desk, and then the pieces on top were actually a custom stand for the 2068 so that it holds it at a slight angle so that you can type on it. And the stand had two lights on it. The person had wired in their own power outlets on the back to control the computer, the main stuff, and then they also apparently had some sort of a calculation machine on there on a separate circuit. But they also used the I've forgotten, was it profile or so there was some sort of stock market following program for the Timex Sinclair 2068, which I never used. But this person used it most diligently. And so these are the printouts, these big rolls of printouts are printouts of their stock portfolios from like 1983 through somewhere around 1988 or 1989.
How bizarre.
And the sad part is there is no name that we could find of this person on any of this stuff. There are no names in this. But and I mean this is a relatively affluent neighborhood, so it wasn't too big a surprise to find out that they weren't doing badly on the stock market during those years. But it was a very and so we like when we reassembled the desk and the stand and stuff like that, and it's really nicely made. I mean, it's very clearly going to be a display piece in my library with a 2068 on it. But it was really wacky to have found this in basically the trash.
That is very strange. Are you going to share pictures with us when you get a chance?
I can see if I can work that out in some way or another.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Post it to the group. That'd be very interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, Ryan. Oh, you want to say something, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, when I started, I started with the 1000 till Timex Sinclair 1000. I got that first, and like I said, I don't know anything about machine code. I bought a hardcover book, a yellow book on machine code. I could never figure that out. I still have it, I think, on my desk. I just came across it the other day. And so most of the time I've just programmed stuff with the Zinc magazine at that time. That's the only thing we had around here at that time. And some user groups, like there was one in Long Island. There's
Yeah.
one guy he did printouts of like he made the newsletter using a thermal printer, and then I guess he put it together and Xerox it.
Oh,
That's
wow.
neat.
Okay.
Then was a stamp, and that's what I got. I got once, and uh, and I got that. So anyway, from there, they came out the 2068 Christmas, and it was $200, and I was thinking about buying one, and then they went out. Timex went out, so then I saw this, and it was, I think Zinc magazine was still going on. I think they had one or two issues before they closed up. And in one of the issues, there was a ad in I think it was called Pyramid Electronics. I think they're in Florida, and they had the TS 2068 new for $200 and refurb, I think $70. So I says, I'm gonna try refurb. So I get it, I bring it home. It came in the mail, and I set it up and I tried it, and the darn thing didn't work. So I called up the guy, and he said, "All right, just send us back and we'll send you another one." So he sent me another one, and I was using it, and it came with the book. It didn't came with that
Card.
the card, but just the book. So I was using that, and eventually I was getting letters from RMG Enterprise in
Yeah. RMG out of
Oregon.
Oregon.
Ron Gowen, I think it
Yep.
was.
Rod
And
Goff.
I bought the Larkin disk drive interface with dual floppies. And I think they were 5 1/4, 360s, I think it was. So I had that for a while. And I was wondering if they had the 1000 interface. So Rod says we don't have any. So one day I actually called up Larry Larkman and in Canada, and he told me, well, they don't have any more boards or something. I think he did send me a software one time for something. I forget what it was, and I think it was a word processor or something that you could do it with. I think with the TS2040, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I had it for a while. And then I also bought a brand new Timex Sinclair 2050 modem in the silver case because uh, Westridge was selling whatever they had before they made it the Westridge 2050.
Right.
So I had that, and then eventually I had it for about 2 years, 3 years, I guess. In 1989, I seen the Tandy computer, so I says, I'm going to get the Tandy. So what I did, I sold as a package deal to, and I sent it to RMG, and he sold it as a package, and he got 25% commission. But I made money on the deal because Larkin stopped making the interface for the 2068. So that was it. Then about 3, 4 years ago on eBay, they had a 2068, and I said, I'm going to get that. So I get that. It's a brand new unit. The guy had 4 of them. And now, after what, 35, 40 years, now I says, oh shit, no wonder why this was no good. You got to go. You want to do a symbol or something, you have to push this button and that button to hit to whatever you want. So it takes you some time doing it. So that's, but I used well, like back then I used the book more, the manual. I didn't have the reference card back then, but
Well, I have a question. Like the reference card was that included with the computer? I
Yeah.
didn't.
yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. I thought
This
it was
guy,
separate.
well, when I got it from the guy said that his father had 4 of them. His father passed away, and he's selling off whatever he had. So I got a good deal on it. You counter offer, and he counter offers, and finally I got it. I brought it home. I took it out of the box. I showed you the box last.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I took it out. It's still sealed in plastic.
Dang.
It's brand new. No fingerprints, nothing. It's just like a brand new unit. I mean, even the book. I mean, the book.
The book was brand new. Yeah. Look at that.
It's all new. So I have it. I pull around once in a while, but well, I'm trying to find out if I can find something that has music and colors, like some software to use, so I can try it out. And be not. I haven't. What I also did, I did buy the Pico with the with
Mm-hmm.
an expansion, and I just got about a month or two. I got the Pico Vito, but I gotta set it, rearrange this because I got it in a drawer, and you can't put everything in the drawer with the boards and everything.
You
But
got to get that desk from Mowgli.
Yeah, you got to get one of those desks. Mowgli, blueprint the
got an
desk so we
L-shaped
can have,
desk.
everybody can have one.
I have an L-shaped desk here, but I got a gaming computer now with 2 monitors, so I can see you and still look at something on the web at the same time. But no, you remember the 2060 year building? Is that going to have slots where you can take the Pico board and slide, plug it in, or do I have to buy a different board for that?
It's going to have all of those features built into it.
No, I'm saying is because when you look at if it's going to be like the original 2060 flat,
Mm-hmm.
I can't use those boards going vertical. They have
Right.
to go horizontal, right?
Right. You won't need them.
What, those boards you ain't going to use anymore?
The 2060 will have the equivalent of a Pico and a Pico video built into it onto its
Oh,
board.
all right. So then those boards you can't use it, right? Right.
Right. I mean, it is in the in the way that the 2060 was supposed to be a
It's going to be
reasonably
integrated
complete
on the board.
solution. That's the way that
You mean it's going to be integrated on the board then, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
with
I
a
have another question. I always hear rumors about the 3225, I think it is,
uh-huh.
the
Yeah,
next version.
yeah.
But was that supposed to be a duplicate of the QL Spectrum Plus or something? Or it's just a whole new computer?
Uh,
Like the 1500 is something Timex Portugal made add extra 16 gigs of memory built into it. Well, I
the
mean,
the
let's say the
3256.
26, the 2068, it was basically what the Spectrum was.
Yep,
So what would the 32, whatever it is, what would that be? Would that be the equivalent of the Spectrum Plus?
that would be pure fantasy, is what it was.
Oh, I know it's few fancy, but I was
I mean,
wondering
there were no
what
specs.
to
There was
take.
there was no work done on it. It was the in the
What?
sense
The
of
3256?
Yeah.
There
yeah,
was specs. There was prototypes. It was mainly a super spectrum, more like a 128, but with the 256K of RAM, with network included, 10 uh, terminal, and you could load operating system directly into the computer, like use the whole 256K of RAM. Um, it was to be something more than a spectrum.
I want to put a pin on that because Ryan has a thing for us. Hey, Ryan.
You're up. You're going to talk about your define?
Yeah, we'll see what we can get in here.
Okay. You want me to put the RaiPi screen up?
Yeah, let me just
Maybe David, you can give some background about what he's going to talk about while he's getting it ready.
So Ryan has. I wonder if I can pin this screen. Oh, are y'all all seeing this? Seeing?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Ryan has gone down this rabbit hole to do a very interesting thing using the def fn function, and a command in 2068 basic and another basics that lets you define a custom function like integer is a function, right? But with these custom functions, they can do whatever you want them to do. Uh, but as Ryan will tell us, there is this trick that hijacks the basic um, evaluation of that defn to do really crazy cool stuff. I'm gonna let Ryan tell the rest from now.
yeah, basically I was poking around on I forget what originally, and I came across this page, and it was this compendium of spectrum routines. I thought, oh, cool, because I had recently been wanting to, use the define function ability more that I didn't really use in the past. So I became interested in doing that, seeing what I could do with it. And I thought, yeah, you could define a bunch of functions. And so I started saying, oh, what would I want to have? And I came upon this. And so it had all of these little things about how to do various stuff in Sinclair Basic. And, you can download these files and it just has various stuff. And I still haven't looked at a lot of this. um, and I forget um, where it is in here. Oh yeah, so I came upon here in the strings one, they had some defined function things, and so I went in to look at that, and uh, let's see if that was. Oh, uh, and so this guy, there was one article by this guy Andrew Owen. He compiles a bunch of stuff. I started looking at these things, and they had some pretty crazy ones. And so they were doing things like, oh, let's make a defined function to do bitwise and stuff you can't otherwise do. But some of these were pretty crazy. So here's the and laid out here.
Does that take about 4 minutes to run?
It's not real fast, as you can imagine, and it calls helper functions, which this V function is a mod, I think is the
Okay.
mod function.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they're basically, looking, you can see here, they're looking at each bit.
Good Lord.
And, but anyway, there's some that are much simpler. I mean, obviously the mod function is pretty simple. And so there's some interesting stuff here. One I realized I needed to actually, this hexadecimal one here. Just various, even simple stuff like here, radians to degrees, it's a pretty simple function. Um, Kind of a useful one is the old D peak or double peak, right? You give it an address and you peak a 16-bit value, right?
That's helpful.
That's pretty handy. You can't do a poke because that's a command. That's the thing about functions is you can't do the commands.
You can only use other functions.
So for a double poke, you have to just use two pokes with the or well, yeah, it depends on what you got here. Actually, you could that's breaking up the number. But one that they did here was this even function, which is a little weird the way they described it, but it's actually even or odd depending on B. And that's actually used by some other things because you're looking at basically the bit 0 with this function effectively. And then the spectrum, they had a free function because there's apparently a ROM routine that you could call, and you subtract that number from 64K, and then that would give you free memory. So that was their equivalent of free.
Interesting. Okay.
And one, if you had a custom ROM, it was a little more complicated. Anyhow, I forget if it was in this file or one of these other files. May have been in the string functions. Yeah. And it mentioned this. Here's a recursive define function in string function. I was like, recursive? I'd always wanted to do that, but I never knew you could do that because the problem is you could call the function recursively, but it kept calling itself recursively because there was no way to not call it. You have to have a terminating condition that doesn't recursively call it. And since it's a static function, you couldn't do that. Well, of course, I was missing the idea, which was you employ the good old val function. And you build a string that conditionally adds the recursive call or not. And for the terminating condition, you don't add the recursive call, and thus it will terminate. And that was like, ooh, now I'm interested. And so I started looking at those, And I noticed that some of these things weren't using recursion where it might make some sense. And so, but that's a little bit separate than where I'm ultimately going to get to. But let's see if I can got this one queued up. Maybe I should have biggened this a little bit.
That's much better. It was a little hard to see. Yeah.
So here's a little simple thing where, so I'm going to leave it up to everyone to say, like, okay, you can see how you can define functions to do normal simple stuff. And indeed, I was assembling a lot of those in a function library. I don't really talk much about that because it's just, yeah, whatever functions you like, you might see a bit over here on this side of the screen, like hyperbolic cosine,
I
factorial,
use
which,
that every day. Can you just send me that one? The
yeah,
hyperbolic one. Yeah.
well, so like factorial, we can do it recursively now.
Okay.
And that was that was simple because of the recursive conditional. So I'm using val. This is ZMake based code because you have to put the function code in for it to make it inside a string. So it's simple. It's n times the recursive call of the function factorial n minus 1.
Mm-hmm.
But you only do that if n's greater than 1. If not, you don't even include this part of the string, and you just return a string of 1, which the val function evaluates to 1,
Yeah.
and won't recur and stop recursively calling itself.
Wow.
And there you go. There's factorial. And so now this one we see here, 23563. This is the address of system variable defadd, which is the defadd trick gets its name. So the way this works is when you're evaluating a function, these arguments get passed in, right? So here we're going to call function z with a string. And we know that when we run our function, we're going to get x string passed in. And so the way Sinclair Basic does this is, I think was a good illustration here. So in the basic program line, the arguments of the define function. So right before this, you'll have the token define function, the name, and then a parentheses, and then you start the arguments. And then here you'll see the character for the argument, in this case v, but in our case, I guess it's x over here, $, and then a number token. People are familiar with the code 14 means there's a number that follows this. And there'll be 5 bytes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And, oh, what's the M? Oh, that's a placeholder. It's this will either be a comma or right parentheses if it's the last argument. Now, if it's a numeric variable, these 5 bytes will be loaded with the value you pass in when you call it. So if it's a numeric function z of a, the value of a would be passed in, and it's actually stored after the argument in the define function, because there are the invisible number hidden. The listing won't show you because there's a token 14 there. The listing then hides the next 5 bytes. So Sinclair Basic will then, that's where it stores the value it passes in. this is also why recursive functions are hard, which I didn't mention when I talked about the recursive part, was that as soon as you call it again, it's going to store the number you call, the recursive call, in the same place, obliterating the first value. So the only recursion you can actually do is tail recursion. So there's a subtlety in this recursive factorial call here, which is we've used the value n here first, and we use it as n minus 1 in the recursive call, but we don't use it after that. We do here, but that's in constructing the string. Once we've constructed the string that Val is going to evaluate, oops, this parent, there's nothing after that that refers to n. So if n gets obliterated, this value of n, we don't care because we've already used it before we made the call, recursive call to the function. And n minus 1 is going to go in there and be stored just after the n argument in the basic listing and obliterate the original n. But it's okay because we already used n. And that's the only way you can actually do that recursive call safely. So I know it's a lot, but I guess the takeaway there is that there's a lot of constraints on it, aside from that you can only have one letter variables for function names, so they're not always intuitive either. So the trick we're going to do here is this first one's just going to say, you say, well, we're not even using X string in this one. We're just peeking the address of def add. And so what is that going to get us? Well, when you run the function, you say the other thing about a function is how does it know X string is this one and not some X string in my program? And that's what the def add system variable does. It says if it's 0, you're not running a define function. When you call a function, it finds the function definition here, okay, and then it sets the system variable def add to this location here of the first argument. So, and then it says, okay, let's evaluate this function. And if this function comes upon a reference to a variable, the variable finding routine looks at def add and says, is def add equal to 0? If so, just go to the variables area and look for the variable. If def add is not 0, we're running a define function. And it first searches the argument list to find the variable. So it looks at that address, starts and finds the variable. So if it finds your variable there in that list, it uses that one instead. And that's how it knows the difference. Okay, now this simple program, we're not using X string right at the moment. We're just peeking at the value. But I've had my program call it with a string, and then we're going to look at the bytes where it's pointed to. We're just going to dump those. Okay, so def add, when we ran the function, gave us 26,717, and there we see the X and the $sign. There's the arguments of the program listing. There's our number token, 14. And then we got some 5 bytes after it. And then the close parent, that's the end of the argument list. And then we see the rest of that function line. Okay. And so on into the next one. I guess I should have shortened that a little bit. Eventually, we're going to see there's our let A string with ABC. Okay, and we keep going. All right, so what's the point of that? So, well, that gave us the address here. We started looking at the program memory, and we could see, I'll just run that again to go back to the top. So if we go back to this page here, in the case of a string argument, instead of a 5-byte number, floating point number, you can't store the string because it could be almost any length. So instead, they store the address of the string in these 2 bytes, and they store the length of the string in these 2 bytes. And that's what the core of the def add trick is. Sinclair Basics giving you the pointer. Okay. So basically in our listing here, this first byte isn't always 0 apparently, but it's not used. This value here is the address of the string. In fact, I think if I go, and that's what my second one is. Let's load that. We're going to go and we make another function that says take that string and pass it to our function defadd that gets the address of the arguments, adds 4 bytes to the address, 5 bytes to the address to peek a 2-byte value, which is itself the pointer, and that returns the address of the string. And so here we say, let's let a string equal ABC. We're going to let a equal function h of a string, which goes off, and because it passes the pointer in, we pass that on into the defadd function that just gives us the address, but that string was also passed to function z. So when function h gets the defadd pointer, it says, okay, I'm going to peek at your offset bytes plus 4, which is still the address of that string stored there, and I'll get the address of the string. And our function I does the same thing, only it looks at the next 2 bytes and gets the length. And then we're going to look at the bytes there and print the values. And of course, the upshot is our string is located at 2705, and there they are. And there's 3 of them. Now, I know that's can be a little hard to follow because of this indirection, but that's one way. So I'm using this to get the address of a string and then going and looking at that. The defadd trick is basically.
Hey, Ryan, we're going to let you continue. I just want to let everyone know, in case they didn't see the chat message or whatever, what David said. David, why don't you say that once again, just so we know, since it's about the end of the meeting.
Yeah,
But
I
we're
just want
going
to
to
let you
continue.
finish, Ryan, but our next meeting is June 2nd at 9 p.m.
And I don't think we have any topics, so if anyone wants something to talk about, bring it up in the Google group or groupsite.io.
Pick a book over the next 2 weeks, Adam.
ZX81 book.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
All right,
Okay,
Ryan.
go, Ryan.
Okay, so the defadd trick is basically you poke an address of interest here and a length of interest here. And then you set the defadd system variable to point here. And then once you've done that, if you set the defadd pointer yourself, you don't have to be evaluating a define function. The system doesn't really know. Then you call a variable that has the same name as the argument in the define function you're pointing to. And then the variable lookup is fooled into thinking, oh, you need to go search here for the variable name. It says, it's a string, and here's its pointer, but you've poked an address in here, let's say, of the screen memory instead. And so here. Basically, we do that. Now, I'm not going to go over the details of the sequence here, but basically, it's very similar. I got to get the address of the functions variables so I can offset to where the pointer is and poke the values in that I want. Okay, and so I'm going to poke in the address of the display attributes in this case, and the length of those. And then I'm going to set up an array, and I'm going to fill that array with random, actually bytes, which are color attributes. And then I'm going to get the address of a string, which contains these bytes, and then poke that into the destination string address of the define function. Yeah, so this is getting long. I knew this was going to be long. And so basically, where is it? Yeah, so here at line 100, I have my magic define function of two strings, x and y, whose address I'm going to poke in and then point to it. So we can see that little bit of code. That's the new bit. Once we poke def add with the address of that function's arguments, we just say let x string go y string, and the magic happens. Because the variable evaluator will look up x string, but it will find it in this define function's argument list, get its address, which we poked to be screen memory, and it looks up y string. It's also an argument define function, which we poked to be the address of our data, and then it'll just do a machine copy. So to show you the relative speed of such a thing, we're going to generate these random color attributes, a whole screen full of them. And that takes a long time. I mean, yeah, there's a random call here. But you can imagine if I had to check what color each character position in the game grid should be, I got to do some work and then put the color there. That could be very, very slow. Mm-hmm. And that's why I couldn't figure out how to make a nice color version of my game, because I knew that figuring out what colors to display was going to be slow. And once I got the colors on screen, I could just use the trick of Ink 8 to say, don't change the color and just play with the colors that are on the screen. And indeed, I did a test where I did just that, where I did a very slow generate the colors process. But once I'd done it, I could play the game in the color screen at about basically the same speed. And so once I came upon this, I realized, oh, I could get the colors on screen really quickly. And so now what we've done was we generated those colors, stored them in the array, and now when I press enter, it's going to do the def add trick to copy the color bytes from my array to the screen memory.
Okay.
Boom.
Oh my God. What the? Wow.
So
that's good.
Wow.
And so that's how we colorize the game here. I don't know if I can make this loud enough to even be heard, because like you, the audio won't come through. But that's not important.
I'll make the sound effects again.
Color.
Color. Boom. Fascinating.
And now at this point,
Oh, I can hear the sound.
Yeah.
you're really just playing on. You can really hear those beeps though.
Yeah.
You're really just playing on top of the existing color, which I did change that because you'll notice he takes on the color below him, or he's on top of, and that makes it just that much faster. Whoops.
I guess, and for those who weren't in the meeting last time, Ryan did show off this game, but he did make a whole bunch of changes to it just in the last couple of weeks,
Wow.
since even the last meeting. So
Yeah, really, Ryan. That's
Mhm.
that's really cool.
A lot of little stuff. Carl's not here to see that I added his little shovel, digging shovel
yeah, he requested that, so we put it in.
animation there. So, yeah, so between that and then some of the extra rules where had to do more checks, I then went back and kept re-optimizing the code for the game loop. And
You're getting decent speed out of this. Is all basic, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, granted, since there's the big thing that keeps this game fast is that there's no monsters to play against. Right? You're playing against the clock. That was my big dodge, to not have to come up with bad guys you're playing against.
Right.
That would really, really slow things down. And so, yeah, there's a few new elements. Well, I kind of showed off most of this, I think, last time, but there's some rules that I might tweak. They have to do with digging, and you can jump out of a hole, which you used to not be able to do.
Okay.
I just want to let you know that he's making the game look really easy because he knows how to play it. But I've played it and it's not that easy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool.
Well, since we're over, maybe, and you've got to show us the game, unless there's some more that you need to show us, maybe we can close out the meeting here.
Yeah.
I'd be looking at code to fudge the timer.
But what fudge the timer? Yeah.
What's that?
So I'd be looking at the code to fudge the timer.
Give yourself more time.
Oh, yeah.
Very funny.
Thank you, Ryan. That was awesome. Really good demonstration.
Phil, thank you for coming and joining us. I hope we see you in future meetings.
Yeah, I didn't catch when the next meeting is.
June 2nd at 9 p.m. On the website, there's a place where you can sign up to get reminders for it. So
9 p.m.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And Thomas, thank you for talking with us about what you've been working on. Maybe in the before the next meeting, one of you smart people here can figure out a way to make his songs or the song or the or that
Audio
kind of thing work. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Ryan, I think is on the right path with there's a mixer tool that you can get.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a good
guys.
Sunday.
light, firm chiclet keyboard, keys feel just right. Every button's magic, many commands to explore. 16 colors glowing, opening the door.
72K power, running dreams in